Welcome to Cherryvale, my brand new series for Minecraft 1.20, which is an update that came out a month ago. So what's taken me so long? Well, I've been waiting for the Create mod to come out because I am absolutely in love with this thing. My entire last series was just messing around with it, but now that I have a pretty good feel for the mod, I think I wanted to actually do a proper series. And the only reason I'm not considering the last one a proper series is it had one pretty major issue. It had absolutely no driving force. I built a bunch of farms, I killed the Ender Dragon, I built some more farms, but I eventually kind of just ran out of things to do, which is why in this series I'm going to give myself a little bit more of a goal, and that is precisely why I chose this seed. Firstly, it's just a really nice seed. It has the brand new biome down there and this beautiful ring of snowy mountains, but I also think it would make a great place for a little hobbit town, which is going to be the goal of this series. I want to take this entire valley and convert it into a beautiful little hobbit settlement. This thing is going to have shops and roads and houses, maybe even some governmental buildings, everything that a thriving settlement will need. But after all, this is still a survival series, so before we can get to all of that, I have to actually gather some resources, so let's go ahead, jump into a time lapse, and punch some trees. Is that enough wood? Well, I think it's gonna kind of have to be, because that is all of the trees in this valley, at least the cherry trees. There's still quite a few acacias over here, and there's some spruce up there, but I don't really care about those as much because, well, it's the new log type and I want to use it. But now that we have that, I think it's going to be time to actually start our first project, which I know it seems a little bit early, but hear me out. The next thing you'd normally do in a vanilla world is go into a cave or dig down in a giant hole and go mining for a couple hours, probably. That is at least what I do because, well, I don't really like mining that much, so I tend to get it all out of the way as soon as I can. But the thing is, with the Create mod, I don't have to go mining at all. I can just make an automatic drilling machine. I mean, I am still going to have to do a little bit of mining to actually get the resources to build the machine, but it's going to be a lot less than if I were to actually just do all of the mining I need to do for all the resources I need for everything ever. So I'm just going to start with it so that I don't spend any extra time mining. I get the automatic mining machine as soon as possible. So let's do it. Here's the resource list, and it's pretty much just a bunch of things I don't have, so let's tackle them one at a time. First up is drills. They're probably the most important part of this project because they do the actual block breaking, and we need 19 of them. Luckily, the recipe is actually quite simple. It's just iron, andesite alloy, and andesite casing. Those last two are a little bit harder, but they'll kind of work themselves out, so we're going to get the iron first. And unfortunately, this is the part where I just kind of have to go mining, so I'll be back. That was a pretty successful mining trip. It only took about an hour, and I got 2 stacks of iron ingots, plus 2 other very important things, namely zinc and andesite, because if we take a couple of those zinc and turn them into zinc nuggets, we can use andesite to make andesite alloy, which is one of the other things we need for the drill, and if we then take a log, strip it, and put the andesite alloy onto it, we get the andesite casing, and that is all of the different components of a drill. I think if I grab some iron here, we can actually make one. So I have plenty of all those resources. We can go ahead, check that one off the list. Next up is the plow, which is mostly stuff we already have, that being andesite casing and andesite alloy, but it also requires iron sheets. Unfortunately, though, you can't just craft these and pressure plates don't count. We have to actually do a little bit of progression into the Create mod, because we need a mechanical press. It allows us to squish ingots into sheets, and luckily it's pretty easy to make. All you need is a block of iron, an andesite casing, and some shafts, which is just 2 andesite alloy, and now we can make ourselves a mechanical press. And this thing also requires a depot to work, which is another pretty simple crafting recipe, and all we do is we place these things down like that, and like that. There we go. We put the iron on it, and it doesn't really do anything because this thing needs power. There are 3 sources of power in the Create mod: water wheels, windmills, and steam engines. Steam engines are the very top-notch stuff, and we are not even close to being able to make one of them. Windmills are not that bad, but it's just a lot of wool, so I can't really do it, which means we're stuck with water wheels. But luckily, water wheels are pretty darn simple to make. If we just grab some cherry wood and make it into planks, we can pretty easily craft it with just a circle of wood and a shaft in the middle, and that gives us a water wheel. And then if we grab some water, we can power our mechanical press with this water wheel. And then all we have to do is place it behind our press, make it pink for aesthetics, and give it a little bit of water. And now this thing is spinning, which means if we put some iron on it, it will press it into a sheet, even if it is extremely slow, because water wheels are not a very good source of power. But there we go. And we only have to do that 2 more times, so, you know, it's gonna take a second. There we go. We got our 2 more iron sheets, and now what we can do is we can go ahead and make a plow with 3 iron sheets, 3 andesite alloys. We don't want girders, and a andesite casing, and we got our mechanical plow, and that is another thing off the list. Next up is deployers, and I think the weather knows what's up because this is the worst one on the list. We need andesite casing, electron tubes, and brass hands. Andesite casing obviously isn't that bad, but the other 2 suck. They're both bad, so we'll just start with brass hands. They obviously require brass, specifically brass sheets and andesite alloy, and we already have our press over here to turn the brass into sheets, but we need to actually get brass. And like in real life, brass is made by combining copper and zinc, but you can't just melt them over a campfire as much as I wish you could. We need something called a blaze burner, which, as the name might suggest, means we have to go to the nether. And I don't have a diamond pickaxe, but there is a nice convenient lava pool right here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and build the classic water and lava nether portal. There we go, we have our nether portal, and luckily all I need from the nether for now is a single piece of netherrack, because I don't like the nether very much and I'm not very good at surviving it, but I got my netherrack and I am out. Unfortunately, I don't see a fortress anywhere here, which is of course the next step, hence the blaze burner, but we have to craft something first. Specifically, an empty blaze burner, which is 4 iron sheets and a netherrack, but we're not quite done yet. I gotta go fill this thing with a blaze. Easier said than done past me, but I am all prepared with a little bit of golden armor to help with the piglins. I got some blocks, I got the blaze burner. I think we're ready to go, so I'm gonna just explore around the nether a bit until I find a fortress, and from there it should actually be relatively easy. That actually wasn't that bad. I found another fortress, I just have to actually get up there, which shouldn't be horribly difficult. I do have a whole lot of cobblestone. Then we just have to, you know, catch a blaze. Which, for what it is a shockingly simple process. All you have to do, go up to your blaze, grab it, and run, because there's always more of them. So, yeah, we're good. That's our blaze burner done, and all I have to do is get back to the overworld. Which was similarly easy. That is the simplest nether trip I have ever had, so I'm glad for it, and unfortunately it's nighttime, but we can kind of make brass now. Actually, not quite. The blaze burner is definitely the hardest part, but it's not the only part. We need a mixer and a basin. Basin is super easy. It's literally just a cauldron made out of andesite alloy, but the mixer is a little bit more difficult. Mostly because of the whisk, which isn't actually that hard. It's just a bunch of iron sheets and a couple andesite alloy, and we've got that. But we also need a cogwheel, which is similarly easy, and then we actually have everything we need for a mixer. It's just all 3 of those combined, and we've got our mechanical mixer. And with a little bit of finagling to meet the mixer's minimum speed requirement, that's what all these gears are for, we can put the mixer down, the blaze burner down, and the basin above it, and we should be able to mix some zinc and some copper. And then all we have to do, fuel the blaze burner, and it mixes it up, and this will get us brass. It is going to take a while though, because despite the fact that it is meeting the minimum speed requirement, it still takes a second. But we've got 2 brass ingots. We need a couple more, because I think I need somewhere around 8 deployers, and it's 4 brass sheets for each. Turns out I only actually need 7, and that is the brass hands for all of them. So now we need the electron tubes, which are not that bad of a recipe. It's iron sheets and rose quartz. Rose quartz is a little bit of a weird one. It's actually redstone and nether quartz combined. So if we take some redstone nether quartz, we get a rose quartz, but this is unpolished rose quartz. We need the polished variety, which means we need to make sandpaper, which naturally is sand and paper, and if we put the sandpaper in the offhand and eat the rose quartz, we get polished rose quartz. So if I go ahead, grab that stuff, I can make myself an electron tube, which means we have a deployer, so we can go ahead and check that one off the list. You know, as soon as I go get more redstone dust, because I don't actually have enough to make all the deployers, so I'm gonna go mining real quick. There we go, all 7 of the deployers, and that's kind of all of the hard things in this entire build. So we just have a bunch of pretty easy to make stuff left that I already have the resources for, so let's knock them all out. Cart assembler, done. Andesite casing, done. Barrels, done. Chests, done. Lever, done. Rails, done. Minecart furnace, done. And with that little bit of cobblestone, this is everything we need. Let's go build this thing. I'm super proud of this thing. I kind of just built it because I don't really know how to do progress updates, but it did turn out really well, and it's super compact. So pretty much the way it works is obviously it has a bunch of drills to just like drill out a ton of blocks, but that's not really the main feature. The main feature is these drills that are pushed out a little bit, because this allows it to create a tunnel as it's drilling. So these 2 blocks that are here will be just a 1x2 tunnel, as if you did a strip mine, which is really nice for being safe instead of having a giant one where a lot of mobs can spawn. So the way it does that is first it drills out all of these blocks in case there's something there like dripstone that you can't place a block through, but it would still be like an issue. And then there's deployers kind of back here that you can kind of see that are going to place cobblestone back where all of those drilled out blocks are, and in the middle here where the tunnel will eventually be. This makes it so if there's like lava or something in the way, lava or water, it fills it in with blocks. And then behind these, there's another set of drills that will drill out that center block. So while it gets rid of anything that's in the middle there, it will also actually still have that tunnel in the middle. And other than that, it is just a bunch of drills that drill out the rest of the material, and these outer drills can just be like expanded as much as you want, and it will put all of the resources into these chests. And of course there's also this thing that actually places the rails down in front of the minecart, and this thing picks them back up, so you never have to actually resupply it with rails because it just kind of does an infinite loop. And I've given it 15, which is actually more than it needs, but you know, it'll work. So now all we have to do is turn it on, but the problem is it's not actually quite done yet. You'll notice only this block like moved up and it's separated from like the rest of the contraption. I accidentally clicking F5. And it's also like it no longer gets the bounding box that normal blocks get, this like black line right there. That's because this is now part of the contraption. I can like lift it up and down. It's attaching it to that minecart, but the rest of the blocks aren't attached to the minecart, and that's because they're not really attached to each other. In Create, you need to attach blocks to each other with something called superglue, which is made with iron and slime. And normally that wouldn't be that bad because I obviously already have the iron, and the slime I could just run over that way to the closest swamp, but the closest swamp is 3,000 blocks that way, and that's a little too far for my liking. It would probably only take like half an hour to get there and back, but the Create mod actually adds in an easier way to do it. If we take some wheat and we put it in this mill that I made, you can actually grind it into wheat flour, and mainly this acts as a much better way to make bread because you can take this wheat flour once it is done grinding, you can combine it with water and you get dough, and this dough can be smelted into bread, so it's actually like a 1:3 ratio for wheat to bread instead of 3:1. But you can also make lime dye, and I ran over to a desert, which is much closer than the swamp, and you can get slime balls like that. So it's just kind of a much easier source of slime, and I have plenty of wheat from my little farm down there. So there is our superglue, iron sheet, iron nugget, and 2 slime balls. And this thing essentially has durability. I think you get like 100 uses out of it, which might not seem like a ton, but it actually lasts like forever. I will probably never need to make a second one of these, but we can use this to glue the whole contraption together. So we click on one part, click on the other, and now if we turn it on, all 3 of those blocks are in the contraption instead of just that one, and I just have to do that for all of the rest of it. That should do it. All of these green boxes are areas of super glue, and when they intersect, it like groups them together. So I believe every single block is now accounted for, and we can test that out by turning this on, and then with the wrench block, you could just pick up the entire thing nice and easily, which, yeah, that looks like all of the blocks were in fact included in that selection, and we can actually test this thing out now. With a little bit of coal, we can turn the furnace minecart on, and it should just start to go and drill out some blocks. It looks like it's working, but that part is the easy part. The real question is whether or not this tunnel gets built properly, which it seems like it is, because we have a tunnel. But the real question is like whether or not it's replacing the stuff in front of it. And I think we're good, because this is all cobblestone and not like stone, so this thing is working flawlessly, and it should be filling up with resources quite fast. So I'm going to let this thing run for a little bit, probably until the chests on the sides of it actually fill up, and we'll know they do because the items will just fall on the floor, and then we can see how much we get. Well, the storage hasn't filled up, but there's a hole in the roof, and I don't know why. Like, it got through plenty of underwater cave before this point, and then just decided to mess up here for some reason. I genuinely have, like, no clue why this happened, so I'm just gonna, like, run back up to the surface and see if I can figure out what's wrong with the machine. Yeah, so I have, like, no idea what happened. At first I was thinking maybe, like, somehow ran out of cobblestone, but, like, definitely not. It has plenty. And then I decided to, like, look at the, like, deployer that should have placed that cobblestone, which is, very hard to see, but it's that one. And this one does in fact have a cobblestone filter that you can kind of see right there. So I don't know what went wrong. I'm guessing just like just randomly decided not to, but yeah, I have no clue. So I'm gonna ignore it. But yeah, for the most part, this machine works quite well. As you probably saw a little bit earlier, we actually got already half a stack of iron, probably a couple stacks of copper, just because it's so common. Got some gold, got some zinc, coal, and obviously a ton of cobblestone. And I believe these two and some over here are the only ones that are actually full. I think it's literally just those three. So I could run this thing for definitely a lot longer with the amount of chests on it, and I think I'm going to, but I'm going to do that in between episodes, and I think I'm going to go ahead and end this one here. So I really hope you liked it. If you did, make sure to go press the relevant buttons down below, and I will see you next time.